Okay, so I was explaining the IoT reference architecture. Okay, so in between where you require these protocols like MQTT and HTTP, you require whenever you have to transfer your data from like device to gateway and or gateway to cloud. So you need certain protocols for your data exchange. So MQTT is one protocol that is widely accepted in the IoT industry. It's around like 70% of the IoT industry uses MQTT protocol. So in next slide, I will explain what MQTT is all about. Then you are seeing here aggregation, bus layer, ESP, and message broker. These are nothing but the connectors for your device to gateway, either or gateway to cloud. Okay. Then here you can see event processing and analytics. So what does event processing and analytics means? So this is basically a part where you basically talk about something called edge computing, edge analytics, fog computing or fog analytics. Those things you can do before your cloud also. And event processing means basically whenever certain things are getting triggered. For example, if temperature is around 25 degrees centigrade, so some event is happening and then your AC should be turned on. So that is called event processing, right? So we have a lot of tools for this, like if you talk about Spark and all, so they come like stream processing tools, event processing tools for those particular parts. And then on the top of that, you can see Bay Portal, dashboard, and API management. So Bay Portal and dashboard is basically used for your control and data representation, and API management is like, suppose you have to connect your mobile phone and all, from there using API like REST-based APIs, you can directly connect your mobile-based application to the cloud. So this is very basic, your particular reference architecture that I have taken from WSO2. So on the vertical layer, you can see device manager. So here basically comes your device management part, because at the gateway end also you will be having certain devices, might be a Raspberry Pi. And then identity and access management. Here basically comes your IAM. It means what are the roles you want to provide to the user? What are the certain resources he can use? What are the resources he cannot use? So these two are part of this particular vertical layer. So next thing, what is your MQTT protocol? Why this is so famous in the IoT industry that everyone wants to work with particular IoT protocol? Give me 2 minutes, right? Some issue I am facing. So okay, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. So what actually MQTT protocol is all about, and why IoT industry is so keen to use this protocol? So very important thing while we are talking about IoT, two things is important to understand. One is device end. It means that device end you don't have very higher computing resources. You have to deal with the constrained environment. Secondly, those constrained environment, if I talk about a device end, this is basically nothing but your storage, processing, and second is bandwidth. Because IoT applications are going to be deployed at the remote locations where you might face the signal loss and all. You don't have the proper connectivity. In those two cases, what is the major issue? That we need a very less processing, and second, less connectivity. These two issues will come, right? So first thing, we need a protocol which can exchange the data to the cloud with very minimal header size, because more focus is on data rather than on the security side, or my data is going to reach to the cloud or not. Now, let me tell you why the data is less important as compared to other data, that where frequent data need to be reached to the storage and all. In IoT, basically, generally the data doesn't change frequently because these are the sensor data. For example, your room has a temperature 25 degrees, so it will not change frequently, 25, 26, 27 or 28. So what could be a case? In these cases, if suppose for a second, if your connectivity is losing and your data is not getting received to the cloud, it is okay. So we can afford latency, and we can afford lose connections. So that is permissible in IoT. So we need to more focus on data rather than on the how my data is going to reach to the cloud. So we need a protocol where less header size should be there. So MQTT is that one protocol which have very less header size. With 2 bytes of header size, you can send the data. So suppose if you have to send the data of 1 byte, you just have to bear a header size of 2 bytes. So maximum with 3 bytes of data, you can exchange your communication, and maximum header size for this MQTT protocol is 5 bytes. So suppose if you are dealing with protocols like HTTP over TCP and all, you have to deal with the header size like 40 bytes, 60 bytes. So their actually bandwidth requirement is more, but in MQTT protocol and all, you need to have a very less header size. So you can deal with very less header size. So easily you can set up your infrastructure in those areas also where connectivity could be an issue, right? So that's why this is extremely lightweight and publish subscribe based messaging transport protocol. So what does this mean, publish subscribe? So generally most of you, if you have some years of experience or might be studying in second year or third year, so you will be dealing with HTTP protocol every day while dealing with your Google Chrome browsers and all. So what happens there, you basically meet with request and response. You send some request, if data is available over your cloud, you can get the response of it. But MQTT is basically different from that paradigm. It has publish subscribe medium. It means some data that is coming from a IoT device, it will publish that data to the broker, and that broker will store the data. Might be if you have done some functionalities, some configuration at broker side, and someone who is interested for that data can subscribe to that data. So basically this is publish and subscribe based mechanism. And there is a something called MQTT broker. So what is the job of MQTT broker? Basically it acts as a medium to connect publisher and subscriber. So publisher and subscriber directly doesn't communicate. They communicate through something called broker. And one of the important aspect in MQTT protocol, we can communicate with publisher and subscriber using the concept called topics. So suppose in the room that I am sitting, say like Pune, so in Pune, suppose I have installed a IoT device which is publishing the temperature data of my room. So we need to generally set up a topic. Topic is in a hierarchical manner. Say like it could be like my room temperature. So Pune slash it could be like my name is say Bhupendra. So Pune slash Bhupendra slash room slash temperature. So this is how your topic works in MQTT protocol. So this device will publish data to this particular topic, and someone who will subscribe to this same topic, right, will receive the data. So as a beginner, you have a lot of utility. Like if you are not much interested in programming and all, but still you want to understand this MQTT concept, you can easily go to the Linux window and you can install utility like Mosquitto Pub, Mosquitto Sub, and the Mosquitto Broker. Then easily you can understand how these things work. Okay. And then publisher and subscriber communicate through broker. So this is basically MQTT broker. Also open source brokers are also, a lot of open source brokers are available. So you don't have to pay any amount in order to use these services. Like Mosquitto is one, Mosca is one, then IoT, for particularly you will look at IoT, then iot.eclipse.org, test.mosquitto.org. So these are the public brokers. So suppose I am sending some message from here and you are sitting in Chennai, you can receive the same message, right? So just you need to have a public broker like iot.eclipse.org. So suppose in future, if anyone is interested, you can connect me from my LinkedIn. Last in that I have published my particular ID also. So because the more focus is not on this side, more focus is on distributed ledger technology. So these things you can get more details if you are interested. Then there are certain concepts like quality of service, clean session, and last will and testament. So these are other features that are available in MQTT protocol. Like if I talk about quality of service, so what does quality of service mean? So quality of service is like when you want like your data must reach to the broker, right? You don't want to afford your data loss. So in those cases, we have also quality of service. So quality of service is like of 3 types, 0, 1, and 2. So quality of service 0 means fire and forget. So if you send the data from the publisher, but it has not received to the broker, you don't care. You send and you forget. The second one is like at least once, quality of service 1. At least once means you transfer the data to the broker, and If broker had not received the data, again publisher will transfer the data until and unless it will not receive. So there are chances of duplication. If suppose you have received a delayed acknowledgement, then data duplication could also be there. So that is one issue with quality of service 1. And there is quality of service 2. So this is the quality of service where data is generally sent in exactly once. It means there is no chance of duplication. So depending upon our requirement that I cannot afford the data loss, then we can select the quality of service. Then there is a clean session. If you want to make the clean session true or false. So suppose if you make clean session true in your programming, then what will happen? There will be no particular backup of the data at the broker end, right? And the last will and testament. Hi, Snehal, could you please mute your mic? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So last will and testament is a feature where basically what happens, suppose there is a scenario that automatically your device stops sending the data, but you are not aware that data is coming from the publisher side or not. But as a subscriber, you are waiting to receive the data. In those cases, you can use this feature. So suppose if your device get disconnected due to might be internet issue or any wire got broken in between, then you will get a particular message that this device is disconnected. So those things you can use. And then there is a concept also called retain a message. So retain a message is a concept in which suppose your device got disconnected, but once your device will get connected, you will receive the last bell known value. Last bell known value means suppose the data is probably like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So in between there was a connection loss. Your connection get lost due to some means. Then you will not receive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but you will receive 10. So whatever the last known value will be published to the broker will be seen. So these are the certain features you can utilize in your particular MQTT protocol. Now next comes actually IoT basically more focus on cloud. Why, how your data is going to travel to the cloud. So generally your dashboard management, data storage, then data visualization, rule engines, all these things we create over cloud. But what is the problem with the cloud? Because your data is going to store at some premises. So it means we are going to trust on the third party. Of course, we are believing at the third party and we sign SLAs and all. But we don't know how my data is going to be used, how much integral my data is. So there is always a trust issue whenever it comes to the third party, right? That's why you see most of the organizations have their own webmail and all. So, but when we are sending our data to the cloud, mostly our data is going to the third party. So what could be the issue between third party, right? So the company that collect data may choose to abuse the data or sell the data to someone with a foul intent, right? So these are many cases. If you will go over internet, even Amazon Alexa also has some issues that someone was hearing your voice what you are talking about at the server end. Then in between you might have seen that Facebook and also got into the privacy issue and they given the explanation, they share your data with someone else, so they give you the options, but who knows how your data is going to be used in the backend, right? So another possibility could be like a company that collect the data for legitimate reasons and the hacker steals the stored data. So this could also be issue. That is the major issue industry every time faces, that everyone generally deals with this particular issue, that you relied on the Yahoo, but Yahoo server got hacked. So generally what you are going to face, your data is going to be used by someone else, right? So next is like trust issues in the IoT. Every time you might deal with these issues. So there are certain stats that I have projected here. So these are the bots you can see like 2015, 16, 18. That bots were created to attack on the IoT devices so that the personal information available on those IoT devices can be stolen. So Mirai was one of the famous attacks that you've seen, that lot of data got damaged. Then there is some particular report from F-Secure. This is one of the company that basically take care of the privacy and security. So they have reported that around 2.9 billion events observed by their global networks of honeypots in first half 2019. So around 2.9 billion events. It means someone was trying to reach to the device. So honeypots is nothing but it deflects the particular request to the some other place. So it is just like what you can say, particular thing that your data is getting, your request is getting mobilized to some other place rather than to the intended server, right? So honeypots plays a very vital role in order to understand how many how many attacks are actually made. So honeypots could be a network that you can install as a firewall before the internet. So your request if will be transferred to some other particular system, right? So honeypot plays a vital role in understanding security and privacy. Then next is distributed ledger, right? So most of you might have heard a name called blockchain every time, and this is one of the hype word in that, which basically focus more on technology called distributed ledger. So distributed ledger is a technology where your data is replicated among the peer-to-peer network. It means there are multiple systems where the same data is replicated. That is what actually blockchain is all about. And then data is basically stored something called based on consensus. Consensus means there is a concept of major and minor. So suppose there are 10 networks and 10 systems in a network, and 6 systems approve that particular transaction, then only that data gets stored. So this is called consensus. And then benefit is of using distributed ledger technology, you have a trust. Trust means single source of truth. So if you have a trust means how, because until and unless 5-6 members present in that particular network will not approve, your data is not going to store. So it means there is a trust. And immutable and verifiable record of data means because all the data is stored at all the systems, so data cannot be mutable. Like what happens in centralized system, suppose someone has a database administration deletes the data, so that data is being deleted. But what happens in distributed ledger, everywhere the same ledger is being created, so everyone has the record of the same, so no one can delete it, right? So immutability of data becomes one of the important part of this particular feature called distributed ledger. Then what actually is IOTA? So we always hear about IoT, but what about IOTA? So IOTA is also a distributed ledger technology that basically focus on feeless microtransaction. So anyone, if you have worked on blockchain or studied little bit basics of blockchain, you have noticed that your in blockchain, if you have to require certain computation, right? So if you require certain computation, then you need to pay certain amount that we call bitcoins to the one who is performing the mining. Miners are one who basically do that complex calculations on computings that basically do the job of making it to the part of the data into the network. So that all these things are not available in IOTA, so you don't have to pay any particular IOTAs or bitcoins to anyone who is performing the mining part. Okay, so this is one of the best suited for IoT applications. So this is basically particular design for IoT applications, IOTA. So and then there is a difference between blockchain and IOTA, right? So IOTA, where actually your data is stored, called Tangle. And in blockchain, we say it is a blockchain where your data is stored. So your data is stored as a blocks, right? And they are chained together. So basically, suppose if one chain is broken, then that will create a problem in your blockchain. So what happens whenever you have to run a particular blockchain based framework, might be your Ethereum and all, then you need to install the whole blockchain on a system. You cannot do it in a parts, right? So suppose there are particular 10 systems in a network, so you cannot work with the 5 systems. You need to add those all 10 systems. So it requires more storage. So might be 2 GB, 3 GB, 10 GB, and 20 GB of data depending on the size of that particular blockchain. But the benefit with Tangle is that only with 3 particular vertex, or you can say squares, you can do the particular communication anywhere. So the benefit with IOTA. So what is basically blockchain versus IOTA, we will try to understand. there is no dependency of the miners in IOTA, but there is a dependency of miners in blockchain. So until and unless your miner will not approve the transaction, you will not be able to part of the network. So you need to pay certain amount to the miner that we call Bitcoins. Then speed of transaction is more faster in IOTA, and in blockchain it is slower. So basically Bitcoin, if I talk about a Bitcoin that is a blockchain, it processes about 4 to 7 transactions per second. So suppose take an example of the banking system. A lot of transactions are coming, more than billions of transactions per second is happening. So here actually blockchain is still in the testing phase. So because it supports 4 to 7 transactions per second, because it requires a lot of time for those particular computing, right? So, but what happens in your IOTA? It has like bigger transaction per speed. So around what I have tested at my system, it's around thousands of transactions per second. It means in 1 second, 1,000 data can be stored, or you can say 1,000 unit of data can be stored. And then there is a scalability. There is no issue of scalability in IOTA. Easily that those particular vertex are scalable automatically. And blockchain solutions are not well suited for custom environment like IoT, where your bandwidth and all is at premium, right? So IOTA become one of the suitable options for the using in IoT based applications. Then what IOTA offers? It offers trust in the data. That is one of the important thing, because these things are getting approved by your particular network. And then seamless sharing of information. And then enabling business models. So what enabling business models means? It means a lot of application in IoT could be like your home automation based applications, your connectivity in terms of like autonomous cars, and also these are enabling business models that you can do with IOTA. So there are IOTA network whom you connect, like we call it as a tangles. So there are two main tangles. One is called mainnet. So mainnet basically needs certain IOTA tokens you need to buy. So this is used for the production unit, but for like testing your applications, you can use DevNet. DevNet or any private tangle you can install, right? So where you can basically send your data. These are your IOTA networks. So this is how your tangles look like. These are the tangle where your data getting stored. So you can see these are the tangles, and these squares that you see, these squares that you see here, this is nothing but your data that is getting stored at the tangle. So this is your direct acyclic graph based mechanism in IOTA tangle, where what happens, your data get stored into the acyclic based, okay, not in the cyclic manner. So it grows in only one direction, not in the both direction. So contains up-to-date history of transactions. All nodes in an IOTA network store a copy of tangle, right? So everywhere your data record is available, whatever part particular nodes are part of your tangle, and individual transaction being added in the end of the tangle referencing to previous transactions. So in blockchain you have something called like miners, but here there is no concept of miners. So here what happens, last two previous transaction will reference to the new transaction, and then your transaction get approved and become the part of the IOTA network. So this is how your IOTA become one of the